Right, hello everybody, and welcome to my movie review of the 2005 Steven Spielberg War of the Worlds movie. I'm just going to get straight into this one because War of the Worlds is very close to my heart. It's one of the main stories that I read when I was at school, and that, along with Star Wars, got me into science fiction. And it was mainly watching the George Pal War of the Worlds, the 1953 version, sorry. And basically, that version is far superior to this shitty remake. I'm sorry, but it just is. And I'm going to show you why. So, first off, we're going to look at a section of an interview with Steven Spielberg uh, about his War of the Worlds film and why it failed, really, as a War of the Worlds movie. Ever since I read the book in college before I became a filmmaker, I wanted to do some version of it at some point. It was a great story and a great piece of 19th century classic literature. It began the entire revolution in science fiction and fantasy, in my opinion. And it was a film that was something that I really respected when it was first made by George Pal in 1953. I just thought that we could make a version a little closer and darker toward the original novel. That was a piece taken from an interview with Steven Spielberg, actually talking about his views on his new film, War of the Worlds, way back in 2005. He said at the end of that little piece that he did in the interview that he intended to make a darker version than George Powell's movie and more darker than the novel was. But I don't think you can get any darker than H.G. Wells' novel, really. And he said he was sticking to, closely to the novel in another interview, and no, not really. No, he didn't, because if you're going to stick close to the actual novel, you'd have set your film in 19th century Great Britain, and you didn't. You set it in America, as always. So no, you're not sticking close to the novel at all. And as we will see further on, you're not even sticking to the plot of the film very well either. And there's a major, huge plot flaw that develops because you don't stick to what the book says. And we'll get into that in a bit. But let's have another look at another section of the interview. And in this section, Tom Cruise is talking, and so is Steven Spielberg. So just bear with me. Tom Cruise speaking. One of the things we talked about when we first started talking about this story was his choices of it being subjective experience and the choice to never go over that hill and see what's happening over that hill. Steven Spielberg talking. That was a huge temptation, by the way. I pre-visualized that sequence going over that hill and seeing the War of the Worlds, and I had to pull back and not commit to that because I thought it was much more personal to the point of view of his family, not to be able to see everything that Hollywood gets to see in most science fiction movies. So, as you can take from that interview, he said he held back from showing the audience the War of the Worlds. Well, I don't know about you, but that's why I paid money to actually go and see the War of the Worlds, because that's what it was called, War of the Worlds. And to not include that section just totally ruined the movie for me. Because what Steven Spielberg forgets and doesn't realise is, inside every person is that little kid that likes to see big Martian war machines wiping out tanks and destroying jeeps, houses, and stuff. We wanted to see that, but we didn't get to, because instead you chose to make it about the family again. If I want to go and watch a family movie, I'll go and watch something like Bambi or something like that. But, this is what I mean. Ugh, Steven Spielberg, you know, just leave science fiction alone. if this is what you're going to do with it, because you ruined a childhood favourite for me. I was so looking forward to this movie, and you just completely ruined it. Right, now down to the things that really irritated me about the movie. First one being was the plot. It wasn't after I actually watched this film, about 2 or 3 years after, I actually realised the huge mistake that Steven Spielberg had actually made. The mistake he made was, if you haven't seen the George Pal movie, or you haven't read the H.G. Wells book, originally the Martians come down to Earth via cylinders, or in the George Pal film, meteorites, which were cylinders disguised as meteorites. Now, in Steven Spielberg's remake, the aliens apparently came to Earth millions of years before humans evolved on this planet and buried their war machines for for them to return later on and have a war with us. And this struck me as like, I think, why? Why didn't they just colonize the Earth there and then when they were there? Why wait to come back in millions of years' times just to have a war with humans? This was a major, major flaw in the story, and it just didn't make any sense to me whatsoever at all. And he made a big mistake with not following the book, and having the aliens coming down in cylinders with their war machines, because it just didn't make any sense. Other things that irritated me about the film: Decota Fanning. Holy shit, was she annoying all the way through this film. Now, I'm not talking about the actress, she's probably a pretty good actress. I'm talking about the character she played. The character she played was just fucking irritating. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, listen to this. Now, imagine that all the time, all the way through the film, her screaming like that. Fucking annoying. And to be honest with you, this is the only time I was actually rooting for the Martians to do this. Oh, if only. Hey. So I'm going to round this video up now with a brief summary. Basically, War of the Worlds 2005, pile of steaming shit. You're probably wondering why I haven't mentioned Tom Cruise, because he was mediocre in this film, as was the actor who played his son, who I don't even remember his name of, because I wasn't interested. Yeah, all in all, War of the Worlds was a mediocre coming of age man getting to know his son and daughter whilst there's an alien war going on in the background, which took basically a second, a backseat to, the story of Tom Cruise and his estranged family. So, all in all, pretty shitty remake. As are all these science fiction remakes that have been done lately. And we've had, a few years back, we had War of the Worlds, of course. A few years back, we had Day the Earth Stood Still, which was a pile of steaming shit crap. And up on the cards soon, we have a remake of a remake of a remake, which is going to be The Thing. So hopefully that's okay. The first Thing was brilliant, and John Carpenter's Thing was awesome. So this film's got a lot to live up to. So here's hoping. So War of the Worlds, pile of steaming shit. Avoid at all costs, and if you can, rent out the George Powell version, because it's a lot more atmospheric. It's a lot more scarier, and there's a little less emphasis on special effects and more on story, which is where a lot of these remakes lose it. They lose the story in the favour of all these CGI special effects things, and just no comparison to the old classics. Sorry, they're just not. The Sci-Fi Guy 100 signing off.